This is the Floridaville. Get to know the people behind the Florida names you know. I'm your host, Rosanna Catalano. On today's episode, we get to know Dr. Susan Fiorito. She's the dean of the newly created Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship at Florida State University, the first such college in the nation at a public university. She's a university leader at FSU who got her start in a high school classroom in South Florida. Our guest today is Dr. Susan Fiorito, the founding dean of the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship at Florida State University. Welcome to the show. Dr. Fiorito, the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship just became an official college at FSU. For those of our listeners not in academia, can you explain what that means?
Yes, and good morning. The College of Entrepreneurship is the only college in the United States. This program is outside any college of business or engineering. We are a separate entity. We started in the fall of 2017 as a school and just recently started a graduate program. And so we have become a college, an entity unto ourselves to be able to plan programs, undergraduate and graduate, for students who are interested in learning about entrepreneurship.
What makes this different than a business school?
A lot of people ask me that, and that's a very common question. And basically, business schools are very specialized. Your last 2 years of university degree, you're going to specialize in accounting or in marketing or in management. In entrepreneurship, we believe in a generalist degree. So our students have accounting and marketing and management. They have personal finance. They have law. So the last 2 years of the students program in our College of Entrepreneurship, they are learning about all of the areas, all the business functional areas. So we really consider ourselves a generalist degree because our students need to talk as an entrepreneur, as a business person, to all functional areas in business.
I've heard you quoted as saying entrepreneurship is a way of thinking, a belief in yourself and your abilities to see a problem and solve it. How do you teach that to students?
That is a good question. And we have as our faculty entrepreneurs. Some of the entrepreneurs still own their own businesses. And it is a way of opening your eyes, opening opportunities to solving problems. We, like students, we go through a lot of design thinking activities, so they will try to visualize or just think of themselves, what problems do they see in their community, in their lives, in their family, in the world, and how can they solve that? Most people think it's, oh, that's someone else's problem. But we all can't say that. We have to be able to learn how to solve problems in our daily life, in our community, in our world. And so we teach students how to be able to approach problems and how to solve them through a lot of exercises.
I've had the wonderful opportunity of taking an entrepreneurship course you offered to faculty and staff at FSU several years ago. Was it important to you that this course be offered to others in the university?
FSU became an entrepreneurial university with President Barron, and it was one of the big 10 ideas helped develop while he was president. In order to be an entrepreneurial university, we not only have to have a degree in entrepreneurship, but we think everybody needs to be educated. What is entrepreneurship? And how can we incorporate that maybe in our classes or even the way we think or behave for staff and faculty? I think it's very important for them to be able to think about how to solve problems and not worried about failure. Because we in our program believe that failure is the best opportunity to learn.
During that course, you told us the story of how you became an entrepreneur yourself in the clothing industry. Can you share that story with our listeners?
Yes. So when I graduated from Florida State University in 1973, I taught high school home economics in Hialeah, Miami Lakes. I was dating the chemistry professor in Hialeah, Miami Lakes, and he had a business, a leather manufacturing business in the Miami flea market. So I've sewn my clothes my whole life, and he needed someone to help him sew wallets. So I went down to the Miami flea market and sewed wallets, leather wallets, and that's how I was able to see him. We eventually decided to get married and move to Atlanta, and we had about 25 companies around the country that sold our leather goods, but a leather company in itself doesn't make that much money, so we decided to sell jeans and tops. And I started to design suede vests, and I had a very typical of entrepreneurs. I had a full-time job teaching high school in Georgia, in Atlanta, and then at night managed the stores. So that's how we started.
You meet a lot of successful alumni who have started their businesses and turned them into empires. Do you see any common characteristics that make these people successful?
The common characteristics of successful entrepreneurs is that they work really hard. And they think about their ideas 24/7. And they don't give up. And if they fail, if something doesn't work, they go back to the drawing board and figure out how to make it work, to go under or over or around roadblocks. They are persistent. They are creative. And they take risks with what they believe they can do. They try everything. They want to know about everything involved with what they're doing.
Your life obviously took some twists and turns to get you to this point. Can you tell us where you grew up and what your home life was like growing up?
So I grew up in Miami, Florida. I'm one of 7 children. I'm the second oldest. And I always wanted to be the oldest because my older sister always got the bike first and the roller skates first and got to drive first. And I asked my dad once, when am I going to ever be able to get things first? And he said, Susan, you won't. So I said, oh, darn it.
And sounds like a conversation we've had with our youngest.
So it's like, and my older sister told me years later, she said, I wish you would have been the oldest because I hated to do things first. And, being from a large family, you learn cooperation. We had to babysit the younger children. So we learned how to take responsibility from a very early age. And we worked together. And I think those characteristics and values have followed me as 7 children that have different personalities. So when you're in any kind of business or educational situation, you're going to have a lot of different personalities. How do you work with them? So I think my upbringing and my parents were totally wonderful, and both of them have passed now, but all of us 7 children still get together for family reunions, love each other, and care about each other.
That's wonderful. How would you describe yourself as a child?
I was hardworking. Going through high school, I always babysat, but I made clothes for my younger brothers and sisters. I made my dad's shirts. We didn't have very much money. And so if I wanted clothing that was cute, I had to make it myself. In fact, one of the women I babysat for when I was in high school, probably 9th grade, was throwing out her drapes from her living room. And it was this gorgeous green color fabric. And I said, do you mind if I take that? We couldn't always afford fabric. So I made a great shirt out of these old drapes. I feel like gone with the wind. I did that.
The Sound of Music as well.
That's right. I don't know. They were all my role models. I don't know. And so I worked for JCPenney in the fabric department, and they let me make all of the clothes for the models in the fabric department, and then I got to keep them. So I just love to sew and create and try to figure out ways on how I can do that without much money.
Are you wearing any of your creations today?
No. So since I got my PhD, when I started into the doctoral program, That's when I had to stop sewing. Now I even pay an alterationist to hem my slacks. Because for researchers, if you're in higher education, your focus has to be on publications if you want to get tenure and be promoted. And I realized that. I did, when my children were growing up, I made their Halloween costumes. And I did make quite a few Barbie dresses for my daughter's Barbies. So I have done that. And now that I have a grandchild, I'll get back into some of those skills again.
Well, I must say you look very festive today, and I like your Rudolph necklace. We may hear jingle bells in the background, and that's what it is, but you look very, very festive. No, it's great. What was your favorite thing to do outside of school growing up?
It was really sewing. I love to sew, and we couldn't travel when we were young. Again, with 7 children, we had 1 car, and it was helping others. I love to work. I actually love to work at JCPenney and meet people there and help people, and I just really enjoyed that.
If I were to ask 10-year-old Susan Fiorito what she wanted to be when she grew up, what would she say?
Probably a fashion designer, because I loved to sew. And I took classes at Miami-Dade Community College. I got my AA degree from there first before coming to Florida State. I was in the fashion design program. And I remember my 8 o'clock class, my first class in fashion design was illustration. And honestly, I couldn't draw at all. And the professor said to me, Susan, you need to change your major because this is terrible. Let me show you what it should be like. So I realized at that point I was not going to be a fashion designer. I could still make my own clothes, but I had to go into something else. And I decided to take some classes in accounting and merchandising. That was okay. I didn't love it. What I really loved was teaching. So I decided to go into home economics education. And I loved teaching high school. I taught high school for 5 years and loved teaching students how to sew, how to cook, how to take care of their family.
Would you have been interested in pursuing a degree in entrepreneurship back when you were in college?
Probably, because I'm sure I could have thought about making clothes for someone and doing it online or whatever it might be. So yeah, I love that. And I love crafts. I've loved Martha Stewart, who was everything.
I watched her shows.
Everything crafty. I mean, it was great. I could not do it as good as she could, but her cool, calm nature and presentation of ideas and how to do things, I love that. So I would be a Martha Stewart copycat, probably.
Did you pursue graduate studies right after getting your bachelor's degree, or did you enter the workforce?
So after my bachelor's, I taught high school. So I had to have a job. My high school home economics teacher called me the semester I was going to graduate from Florida State, asked me if I wanted a job. And I said, yes. She said, there's a job at Hialeah, Miami Lakes if you come down and interview for it. They had 7 home economics teachers at that time in the early 70s because every boy and girl had to have 1 year of home economics before they graduated high school. Those were the glory days. I interviewed, got the job. It was my only interview. I didn't even have to look at job announcements or anything. So it was very good. Moved to Atlanta. I got the first job I interviewed for in teaching high school there. So I really loved it. But while I was at Hialeah, Miami Lakes, I decided I wanted a master's degree. So I took courses at night. I also taught adults at night how to sew, which was fun. And I also mended all the football team's practice uniforms. I have a football trophy, actually, that the whole football team gave me because I mended all of their uniforms.
That's so great. So when did you decide to pursue a PhD?
We eventually in Atlanta had 4 stores and clothing stores. We would close out, like County Seed in the mall would go out of business because what we started was to alter jeans on the spot for our customers. This happened one day when I was working in the store on a Saturday. A woman came in with 3 little boys, and so the jeans were all too long for her. And she goes, oh, sewing through all these layers of denim. It's so hard. And I said, if you don't mind, I can sew them for you. I can hem all of the jeans for you on the spot right now for no charge on the leather machine I have in the back of the shop where I sew the wallets and the purses and things. But you won't be able to return them. They'll be altered for you. I'll make them long enough so if they shrink. She said, fabulous. So we decided to start that service. And we would alter everybody's jeans on the spot for them for no charge. And no one could compete with us. Riches was in our first mall, and they charged a huge amount. If one of our customers, they bought a pair of jeans and the zipper broke, I would replace it. I would sew on buttons for them. And so our vendors who we bought jeans from loved us, and they would want us, of course, to be successful. When we had 4 stores, my hands were blue during back to school from all of the indigo dye. I was sewing all night long jeans and would bring it back the next day to our other stores. Being in a family business is very difficult. First husband and I, there were several reasons why the marriage didn't last. When that happened, I decided to leave Atlanta, and I was offered a job at FIU to teach merchandising. I had a master's degree only, and they were starting a merchandising program. They needed someone who had small business experience. And the merchandising program, then FIU was only a junior and senior program. There was someone reviewing the program, Catherine Greenwood from Oklahoma State, and she interviewed me, as with all the other faculty, and she said, you'll need a PhD to continue to teach at higher ed. And I said, yeah, okay. And she said, I can offer you an assistantship, pay your tuition, and also I'm starting a new center to work with small businesses, and I'd like you to be my assistant. So I said, okay. So I was 31, and I sold everything I had, and I drove out to Oklahoma and started in the PhD program at Oklahoma State.
Wow. Tell us how your career unfolded after you completed your doctorate.
So when I had started at Oklahoma State, I was traveling to various merchandise marts. Catherine Greenwood and I were presenting sessions on how small businesses could stay in business. I was in a little apartment complex right on the edge of Oklahoma State that had faculty members that lived there. And a faculty member from the College of Business lived next door, and she wanted to hook up every single graduate student professor with the men in the College of Business who weren't married. So we often had parties, and there were all the single men from the College of Business who came over to our apartment because my roommate and I could both cook. And so I met someone there, and one of the professors who was single, and 6 months later we were married.
Wow, that was a whirlwind.
Yeah, someone who did not want to get married because I had just been through kind of a difficult divorce, but when you meet the right person. That was 37 years ago. We're still married and have 2 wonderful children, and but he had just accepted a job in Iowa. So I was just in my first year of my PhD program. He moved to Iowa, so our first year of marriage, he was in Iowa and I was in Oklahoma. So we'd see each other once a month, and that would let each of us focus on our responsibilities, me getting finished. By the time I finished my coursework at Oklahoma State, there was a job opening in Iowa. I applied for it and I got it. So we were at the University of Iowa for 8 years before coming to Florida State.
Wonderful.
This episode of The Floridaville is brought to you by Rocket Ship Consultants. Let us help you launch your career, your business, your political campaign, or your podcast. For more information, visit our website at rocketshipconsultants.com.
Higher education can be a bit of a mystery to those not working in it. I know you served as president of the Faculty Senate for a time. Can you explain to our listeners what that means and the differences between tenure track and non-tenure track positions at a large research university?
I love service. That's really been part of my life. And being on committees, it's not typical that faculty members, and I was hired at FSU in a tenure track line, which means that I had research responsibilities. I was promoted from assistant to associate and then to full, mainly because of research, but also teaching. I'd won several teaching awards. But I loved helping others, and to do that was service, to be on committees. And I would be on a department committee and then maybe a college committee, and I would volunteer. And because there are so few women that were tenure track with a PhD, you had to serve on a lot of committees in order to have diversity. So I would just volunteer. And I wanted to be on the curriculum committee that helped design and approve a curriculum all over campus. I started going to those meetings and they said, "Would you like to be chair?" So I said, "Sure, yeah." And so for 16 years, I was chair of the university curriculum committee. That's people from all over campus. And in the College of Human Sciences, they needed a representative on the faculty senate. And I said, "I'll do it. I love to do service work." And the faculty senate is made up of 100 faculty, only tenure track, from across the university. All colleges are represented. I was on there and was very involved with several other university committees and was nominated to be part of the steering committee for the faculty senate. There's only 7 people there. They're voted on by the whole 100 people in faculty senate. I don't know who nominated me, and I was on this small group that met with the president once a week. And we had meetings, and then eventually I was nominated to be the vice chair and then voted on to be the president of the faculty senate. So for 2 years, and the faculty senate president is on the board of trustees. So it was just a tremendous opportunity.
What are some of the lessons you learned leading the faculty senate at FSU?
Some of the valuable things I learned and appreciate is that each college is so different. They're so unique. Florida State is very much decentralized. Although the faculty senate is a central organization, each college, each dean, each department has a lot of autonomy. Deans control their budgets. They request money, of course, from the provost, but they have a lot of ability to make decisions about where they believe their college should be going. So the faculty senate really helped me appreciate the differences in the different colleges. How many undergraduate programs they had, how many graduate programs, what is the most important thing to them. In the humanities, it's writing books. It's not publishing in top-tier journals. So each college looks at their discipline and follows what is needed in their area to succeed, what the professionals need to do and how they need to educate the students in their majors.
You've pursued a number of paths and even started your own business. All of these activities involve an element of risk, and you've touched on this before. How do you talk yourself into taking a risk and making a leap?
You know, it's easy to take a risk with what you believe that you can do. Now, starting the college, several people will say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this. There's not another one out there." I really believe that I don't make decisions in a vacuum. I have a fabulous team. I have been able to work with people who are sharing and caring and giving and are willing to help make decisions and see things that aren't there yet. Love to work with people, and that's probably being from a family of 7 children. We just work together. And I believe we've made a lot of mistakes, but I admit it. I say, okay, this was the wrong thing. We don't need to teach this class anymore. Ask several people. Yes, let's do class in this area. Okay, that sounds good. We ask the experts and we move forward. Maybe that's not right. So then we start again. Okay, so what do we need? We're entrepreneurial within Florida State, which is a big corporation. And they have rules. Every student has to graduate with 120 credit hours. So we have to figure out how we can be creative and innovative within that structure. And that's what entrepreneurs do.
When I consult with business owners, they always tell me that they would not have been able to pursue their dream if it wasn't for having people in their life that support them and cheer them on. Who are your biggest supporters and cheerleaders?
Clearly, my husband. There's a lot of things that I need to go to. My job is fairly demanding, and he is always supportive. Makes me laugh. People sometimes don't believe that Jack has a sense of humor because he's very deadpan, but he's one of the funniest guys I know and is always supportive. Will just let me pursue what areas I want to do, what things I want to do, and what I feel is necessary. And we're such, I think, a good team in raising our children, continuing on with our careers. I couldn't have done it without him.
Getting back to your current work at the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship, what plans do you have on the horizon for the college?
So in the gift agreement that we signed in December of 2015, it indicated that the school at that time needed to have 5 undergraduate degrees and to have at least 500 students by 2023. So we've already overcome the 500 students. We're about 750 students right now. The school was supposed to start by August of 2018. I started a year earlier, but we have until 2023. I have 3 undergraduate majors. We're working on the 4th with STEM undergraduate major. And I feel very strongly, even though it did not say anything in the gift agreement, that we need to build graduate programs. We cannot be an institution at Florida State University, a Research One university, and not have graduate programs. So people were kind of shocked about that because it wasn't in the gift agreement, but I feel strongly that if people have undergraduate degrees in, let's say, classics, and they decide they want to open a business, how can they do that? So I feel that having entrepreneurship master's degrees and then eventually a PhD will, again, help to educate all levels and interest. And then also executive education. I would love to do that. So I think graduate degrees, I'm looking forward to developing those and partnering with the different colleges across campus, executive ed, because there are people who have graduated who want maybe a certificate in entrepreneurship, want to learn some things about starting a business. We're also teaching high school summer camps. So I think it's our purpose and our goal to be able to teach all levels. Anyone interested in entrepreneurship, a minor, a major, certificate.
We like to end our show with a little bit of fun by asking all our guests the same 7 questions. What would people be surprised to know about you?
Probably that I like to knit.
I wasn't expecting that with that long pause. I wasn't expecting that as an answer.
I don't know. Most people would probably not picture me knitting at night when I go.
All these high-powered meetings, and you knit. I love it. When you have guests in town, where is your favorite place to take them?
We love to take them to Wakulla Springs. It's so much fun to see people on that little cruise ship as we're going through and looking at alligators and birds. It's just so Florida. It's just a beautiful place to relax and bring visitors.
What is the name of a book you recently read that you could not put down, or the name of a show you enjoyed binge watching?
I love The Crown.
I do too.
Do binge watch that. I had to not watch it until my daughter came from New York for a visit, so we watched it. And I really think I had a previous life where I was some kind of royal somewhere. I love those big dresses, and so I really think I must have worn those in a previous life. So I love the royals and all that historical stuff.
I do too. I'm guilty. Among your close family and friends, what are you best known for?
I think being the mediator. I don't like people angry with each other, and I really try to help people to resolve problems, and I'm very easygoing. People see me as someone who will fit in to most things and will go along with what they want to do.
If you have a nickname, who gave it to you?
My mother used to call me Susie. And now, even some people that I'm introduced to, they'll say Susie to me, and I'll look at them like, who are you? That's not a nickname that you can give me.
Only your mom.
Only my mom.
If you knew you could not fail, what would you attempt?
I would love to play a musical instrument. I just admire people so much who can play instruments. And as a child, again, we didn't have very much money. That's one of the things that we weren't able to do. And none of us in my family were able to take music lessons or even take music in school because you had to pay an extra fee for a musical instrument. And I would love to be able to do that. I love music.
You can just take lessons if you want.
I know, in my free time.
I just started cello lessons after a 30-year hiatus.
I love it.
I put my cello down. I'm suffering now in my spare time, but it's getting done.
Good.
What are the top 3 things you love about living in Florida?
Wearing flip-flops. I love wearing flip-flops. I love the beach. Growing up in Miami, just being able to go to the beach and listen to the ocean. I absolutely love that. And I love seeing the sun. We lived in Scotland for a year. My husband and I took a sabbatical, and I had no idea there were parts of this world that didn't see the sun for months at a time. It was a sad time when it was so gray all the time. So I love the sunshine.
Dr. Fiorito, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. For more information on our show, please visit our website, thefloridaville.com. Be sure to like our Facebook page so that you can learn more about upcoming episodes. We would love to hear your feedback and ideas for future episodes, so be sure to email us. Our email address is feedback@thefloridaville.com. This episode of The Floridaville was edited by Joy Tootle. Thank you for listening.